Hi, Steve. Thank you so much for joining me on Scouting for Growth for the second conversation on the insurance technology world.
Hi, Sabine. It's nice to be here with you.
So, my first question, Steve, for discussion today is from your perspective, Steve, what are the common mistakes insurance technology startups, tech founders make when investing in technology today, partly when they look at the components available to them when they are trying to build their new value proposition?
I think there are a couple of classic, I'm going to call them errors, that founders make. The first is this idea that you need to hire people that are technologists. And let me explain that. Most of what you're bringing to the market is probably not all that proprietary or unique. Some of what you're bringing to the market is likely groundbreaking and incredibly important for people to pay attention to. So I want to pivot on two concepts. The first is this idea that everything must be built for your solution to go to market. That's a drag on money. It's a drag on speed. And you may lose focus on what's important to your business model. So this concept of reuse of available componentry that exists at very low or no costs is incredibly important. The second point I'm going to make, and I'm actually going to make three, is this concept of speed. If you're an InsurTech, you're burning through time and capital fast. So how can you assemble your solution in a way that you can test the market as quickly as feasibly possible? And a lot of founders lose time tripping up over what I'm going to call boring tech or platform tech. The third, sometimes a mistake, sometimes it works out, but usually it doesn't, is this idea that you need to hire all of your technology talent. With the pace of change of technology, if you were to do that, a year from now, you're going to need different talent because the technology is going to be different. So this idea of mostly renting technology talent at the beginning is maybe more important than a lot of founders may see right out of the gate.
Very interesting concept. So, what should we rent and what should we own, Steve? Right? We are in this new world where you said there's a lot of things which is commoditized. Technology is a commodity. What should we do?
So obviously, if you're a founder with a great idea, anything that's core to that great idea, you need to own. So in the beginning, technology may not be core to your great idea. So you may not need to own any of the resources with the technology. You need to own the intellectual property. But as you're building out your proof of concept, is there anything so special in your proof of concept that's your core to your business? And again, back to this idea that a lot of founders say, boy, the first thing I need is a CTO. Well, you need someone filling that CTO role, but is the person you're going to hire now going to be the same person that you're going to need a year from now, or 2 years from now, or 4 years from now? Maybe not. Now, as your technology matures, there are going to be features of what you're building that are very unique to your business and very unique to your product and your business model. At that point, thinking about hiring a very thin management team, maybe it's one person, a CTO, becomes important. But again, critically assessing when is that necessary. CTOs are very expensive if you want to hire a good one. And if you're operating on a shoestring budget or you're prioritizing every last dollar because your investors want you to, making that choice to have an extremely expensive hire that's going to burn up a lot of your capital and your cash fast is an extremely important one, and timing that decision is extremely important. And again, even after you, let's say, onboard a CTO and you've got a hugely talented person that's going to be with you for the duration, having that person and yourself critically assess what technical talent is absolutely necessary to be core to your vision is as important as thinking about your architecture and your tooling in terms of what is generically available and what needs to be part of your secret sauce.
So interesting. Let's go into context. When we think about insurance technology providers, we have the technologists, right? The one who are creating the platform. We have the distributors, the MGAs, who actually providing, underwriting capacity and enabling insurers, carriers to be more effective with niche market segments. We have, and I would put the brokers as well, distribution in that bucket. And then we have the carriers, right? The one who are building the full stack, layers by layers to serve a very specific market. Let's say, home insurance in new ways using technology and IoT to actually detect things and protect our homes. Let's think about mobility, the future of mobility. Now we are looking at autonomous driving. How does that work? Tell us, what is core? What is non-core?
So if you're an InsurTech provider, you should pat yourself on the back a little bit because most innovation that's occurring in this space is from founders, from companies that you may be incubating, you may own. You're the force of innovation in this sector, and that's incredibly important. It's important for your investors because they want a return on their investment. It's important for the sector because the huge advancements in the distribution space, the carrier space, all of your customers are because of you. And it's probably important to you, if you're a founder, to say, how can I provide a market relevant set of solutions and how can I make money? Doing so in a responsible way is incredibly important. And that's the reason we're here, Sabine.
Yeah. I mean, it's all focusing on the value proposition and being very clear around value creation. So value proposition, the value component of the proposition, and being clear as to how technology augment that proposition and drive the right automation. And then we cherish and really tend to be clear around the value we are delivering for the markets. So earlier, during our conversation, we talked about orchestration. So what strategies can insurance technology providers, employ to effectively orchestrate and assemble technology components potentially in such a symbiotic relationship, let's say, to go faster to market?
I'm going to use a slightly anonymized example of a company that was a client of ours. And this woman, brilliant woman, was a founder of this AI company, Gen AI, super on trend. And she had spent a year constructing this prototype solution. And in the politest of ways, I started breaking down her solution and asking her some questions. And I said, okay, in terms of data ingestion, what did you build? And she said, I spent months building this proprietary data ingestion engine. I said, okay, data storage. She said, I built that too. I built the integration thing. I have specialized dashboards. And as we began to talk through her solution, it became apparent to me and to her a lot of the tools that she had spent a good amount of time making super special were right off the shelf available, sometimes for free in the marketplace. However, at the core of her platform, she had a library, she had some trained AI that was groundbreaking in the marketplace. And all I could think of is, boy, had she spent a little more of her money on that. And if she had not used up as much time, she could have had 6 or more months a lead start in the marketplace. So there's a real example of the importance of boring tech I think it was because she was such a brilliant product manager. She understood the market. She was a really good technologist. And in her evaluation, she could make everything a little bit better. But the exam question was, did it have to be? And which was more important, speed or perfection?
Speed
And
of perfection. I love that.
yeah,
Which I guess for you and for all of us, it's really speed. We are in this world where, once upon a time, perfection was very important for us, right, Steve? But I guess we're in this world of iterative learning, right? Of providing really good milestone around delivery so that people can see where something is going. And then you can actually capture the market, the customer, the user response to make sure we are going into the right direction. So building a fully fledged technology full stack doesn't work anymore, which often I think this is what we were told in insurance. We cannot build half an insurance product often, Steve. But I guess clients are not asking fully fledged product either. Let's remember the smartphone, the iPhone. We only had three capabilities to start with. So when you look at what you were saying from insurance technology, it's about monetizing algorithm. It's about focusing on the area of differentiation, not the full stack, but components of the stack where we are going to be able to deliver value, and then look in the market for things which are already available. What is your lens around where tech founders need to focus their attention and where you can help as well with the team at Oliver Wyman?
um, there are a couple of important concepts. In order to make money, it's important to understand how is your product going to be used for real. And it's an important thing to understand how is your product going to be sold. And those might be two different things. And those are things that we help founders and insurtech companies with. A lot of founders believe that these are the same thing, that I'm going to demo something to my client that I'm then going to give them. And that can be a very costly mistake. More often than not, if your customer is a carrier or a broker, um, they might already have something to plug into. They might already have a set of systems and they might not want another brilliantly designed platform. They just might want your cool thing plugged into their environment. And having the humility to realize that, and their environment might be green screen mainframe, who knows? But this idea that thinking about your product in a way that can accelerate your time to market is incredibly important. And then let's get back to how do you sell it? It's hard to sell an algorithm because you can't see it. And this is back to this orchestration and visualization layer. When I got to Oliver Wyman, that was the first thing that I put my pen down and I said, okay, we need to build something that we can give to our InsurTech founders right off the shelf that can provide some orchestration and visualization of their cool stuff, and we can just give it to them so that the calories can be spent on much higher valued things, so that this idea that you can get up and running with a demo in days or weeks without having to build this fairly generic thing that you might need to use to demo, we think is incredibly important to founders, because you have to show someone, here's how this algorithm works in your ecosystem. Here's the problem that it solves. So demoing is an extremely important part of the sales process. It's an extremely important part of raising money. May not be relevant at all to your product strategy. And so this idea of thinking of them as two different things, I believe is incredibly important.
Very important. And you have highlighted an area which I tend to spend a lot of time myself as well with growth ventures, startup founders, leveraging a three-step program, which is about really understanding your user, the disability, the feasibility, so the components which meet that user's requirements, and then whether there's somebody's going to buy it. And often, when you actually align what you're actually doing to what the customer wants, it's usually fewer functionalities, fewer value proposition items, which then takes us into the product, right? You don't have to have all this list of things. You just need to focus on the things which meet the customer needs, which means those are the value items they are looking from the solution. And so then you can remove the rest and actually maybe use what you may call commoditized tech, right? And then you have to actually make sure that the price tag is actually aligned with what the client is prepared to pay for it. So that gets you maybe in position of scalability. So looking at the fact that we have commoditized technology off the shelf, some free, and then we can actually deliver true value to the customer, Steve. How can insurance technology startup leverage that commoditized technology to scale, to really scale their product offering and deliver the revenue that they potentially promise to their investors as well?
Modern tooling, and especially cloud-based tooling, already scales. So this idea that I need to buy a specialized infrastructure or server is no longer as important as it once was. I want to come back to the importance of speed and getting something in your customer or potential customer's hands as fast as you possibly can to find out what is the thing that they're going to find valuable and what is the thing that they're going to pay for. And by the way, those might be two different things. Oftentimes, founders focus so much on business value because they really want to help their clients. They may miss market signals about what are people willing to pay for. A signal that we're hearing in the marketplace more and more is our carriers, our brokers, that are our clients want speed. And it's interesting because Oliver Wyman prides itself on having the best solutions. And we can solve the hardest of problems. And yet the market is telling us they just want faster, sometimes boring and faster. And so we're hearing that and we're pivoting in that direction to really focus on good enough and faster. And that is something that really was counterintuitive to me this year. I thought, boy, I'm joining this company full of big brains. We're going to solve the most interesting problems in the universe. But that's not what the market's telling us. They're entertained by those problems, but they're willing to pay the most for speed to business utility.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. I actually have a stat for you, Steve. 84% of insurers say speed is the new competitive advantage. And they can actually also see real-time analytics, instant claims settlement provide the most differentiation. So talking about differentiation, Steve, as the concept of differentiation changing when you think about insurance technology providers, how can those companies leverage advantage, I guess, around speed to fulfill customer need? And how do you help them? Because I know you help a lot of them deliver on speed, differentiation, and be unique in the marketplace.
It's this idea of moving faster than your competition. There was a military pilot. I'm going to tell the story, and if you Google this, you might find out who I'm talking about. And I believe it was in the 1950s, decided that he wanted to be the best pilot in terms of being like a fighter pilot. And in training exercises, he shot down everyone. And the military kept bringing in new people. And I think he had a $40 bet that he made to anyone, and which was a lot of money in the 1950s. He said, if you can shoot me down, I'll give you these $40. And I don't know that he ever paid it out. And the reason that he was so successful, and he said to his bosses, and he shaped modern military strategy. He said, I'm not any smarter than you. I'm not any better. I'm not stronger. But the one thing that I'm doing is I'm moving faster than you are. I observe, I orient, I act, and I make decisions faster than you. And I can beat superior military forces just by moving faster and being more agile. And if I think about the situation you're in, if you're a founder, moving faster than your monolithic competition is super important because you have monolithic competition. You have competition with deep pockets that may have bigger brains, um, bigger workforces, bigger everything. But if you can move faster than them, if you can listen to the market and pivot faster than your competition, you're going to dominate in the marketplace.
One thing which comes to mind, Steve, is that nuance around, the word moat, right? We know about technological moat, and that is just coming to mind as I'm listening to you. So when we think about insurance technology ventures which are there, we're often told that we need to build technology which is cheaper than the customer expects the technology to be. And we need to use best of breed components that are potentially sometimes free, sometimes not, to actually achieve that value-driven statement while differentiating. So how the world of cost effectiveness, cost efficiency plays in our world when we start looking at open source technology, AI frameworks, cloud AI services, microservices. What's your view?
Don't assume. I have a client that I actually approached the situation with that mindset, but I'm old enough that I don't always speak what I'm thinking. And we were having a cost conversation, and I asked about business priorities. And it turns out this particular client had some technology on a data center that was costing them way more than the technology or consulting would be. And they needed to get off of this data center. They were paying for the building, they were paying for machines, they were paying a lot of money. And this was sort of like the last thing standing to get out of this data center and move to the cloud. And at the end of the first or second conversation, what we mutually determined was that cost was not even in the top three because the external cost was so much greater by an order of magnitude than the cost of the project, the cost of the technology, the cost of anything else. And I'm going to repeat myself. The most important thing was responsible speed to move out of this data center because it was incurring these massive monthly costs. And so this idea of assuming it needs to be best in breed, assuming that it needs to be um, all perfection and pristine, that you need to be the smartest may not be the right decision. And this idea of really thinking with your customer clearly and asking the questions, what's the most important to you from a business perspective, you may get a different answer.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Partly when we think about technology moving to the business, and for me, having, been able to, I would use the word play with a number of generative AI platforms which are available out there. For me, that's where I can really see technology moving to the business. You mentioned low code, no code tech platforms as well, which allows business person like me, take, drop, and then start building stuff as well. So looking at the world of technology and where it's going, moving to the business function, to my mind, what does it mean for the future of insurance technology altogether, Steve?
It's becoming more democratic. And I didn't use the word will or in the future today. When I got to Oliver Wyman, we built tech to make our tech more democratic, more business user centric, cheaper, more accessible. because we're in this future today where business users are taking more control of their destiny. The power of modern technology is here to enable your business outcomes. And again, I'm old enough to have existed in the pre-internet era. When browsers first came out, they were pretty complicated things. And then I'm not advertising for Google, but Google had this concept of a very simple screen that intuited quite a bit and took the burden of having to find your thing out of the customer's head. And then you've mentioned iPhone, same thing. With BlackBerry had this brilliant idea of this, can you merge email, internet, phone into one device? And then Apple came along and said, but this is hard. How can I make this simpler? And in today's ecosystem, it's getting easier and easier and easier. And even this concept to build an application or a platform, do you need to know how to code? We think the answer is no. And part of the reason that we've built this orchestration layer is to give this ability to our business users to manufacture platform grade tech on the fly without having to ever code. I imagine that customers that are taking advantage of these capabilities, or if you're an InsurTech, if you're building these capabilities, you should be thinking about how do you take the burden of using your thing away from your user? And it may be counterproductive. If you're imagining, well, I'm going to do that by creating a new user interface, or maybe your user doesn't want a user interface.
Yeah.
Maybe you have a solution where your user just wants an alert when something happens, and they don't want a dashboard. They just want to know when does something happen, or let's even go one more step further. Maybe they don't even want to know when something happens. They want your solution delivered in the background.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, which actually changed in some respects the way we work, right? The future of work, the future of business, the future of application, maybe the future of platformification, which also mean that you need different expertise. And you won't believe, Steve, I've interviewed so many fractional COOs, CTOs, CFOs in recent months. So when you look at what you are doing in the world of insurance technology, providers, startups, tech founders. Can you share example as to how Oliver Wyman has been able to use its expertise with those market players to maximize the use of technology, but also enable them to get access to more, right, across the group expertise, because it's all about fractionality nowadays.
So we bring practitioners that have 20 or 30 plus years of experience that would cost you a tremendous amount of money to hire, and that bring the kind of gravitas and experience that can help you raise money, help you develop a product strategy, help you with your clients, and often in fractional ways. Because this idea that you need someone for 40 or 60 or 80 hours a week to generate your business outcome is simply not true in our experience. You need someone that can help make good decisions, validate your good bets, point you in the right direction. That doesn't need to be somebody full-time. The second way that we help clients is we give them access to what we're talking about now at a high level. So, okay, much of this tooling can be generic. Okay, which tooling, where? How do I put that together? We index hard on getting work done. So a lot of our competition will give you a PowerPoint. We're going to give you a successful demo and a functioning platform. And those are just different focus areas.
And which are very important nowadays, right? It's all about execution. And I think it's a very important world. we used to do strategy and PPT, and that never been my favorite place to be. But now it's about really talking about expertise and execution and delivering value continuously across, different milestone of any execution projects, right, Steve? So it's also moving from building technologies, I believe, to really focusing on what a startup should be about: product design, value creation, delivery, selling, and marketing as well, which often, young ventures leave very late in the process. So, what business results could we expect working with you?
We worked over the summer with a few different InsurTech founders. One of them, we brought her loose ideas to a functioning platform and product that she could demo to her clients and she could raise money on in a handful of weeks. And this should be your expectation as a founder. If you're talking with a consultant or a solution provider or some tech company that says, boy, I need your requirements all written down, that's a warning sign. I need business specs, and then they give you this waterfall approach that's going to last months or, God help you, quarters. You should find a different partner. If instead your partner is saying, okay, let's have some conversations about your business strategy, and they give you some good ideas and they listen to you, and days, maybe a week or two later, you start to see it come to reality, that should be the baseline expectation. You may need a PowerPoint, but that's to raise money from a venture capital firm or somebody else, and that PowerPoint might be 6 slides long. But this idea that you need complication in your world to achieve your business outcome is so last year.
It is so last year. I like that statement. It should be short, it should be simple, and it should be based on the outcome we want to deliver. So, Steve, if there is any word of wisdom you would like to, those young tech ventures out there to consider to reframe the way they are going to market, what would that be?
I would urge listeners to not be intimidated by the technology and not to be overconfident in your own abilities. And there's a window between those two worlds. And seek out help where you need it and believe in your idea. That's the best I can do this morning, Sabine, for words of wisdom.
Very nice. And so, a reminder, Steve, where can we find you if we want those insurance technology provider? I would say those tech providers, because every so often, we talk to an AI startup wanting to come into insurance too, right? It's the world of tech wanting to work with insurance. Where can they find you?
We'd love to help. I'd love to help. You can find our website at oliverwyman.com. You can reach me on LinkedIn. My personal work email address is steven.abel@oliverwyman.com. I'd be happy to hear from you and continue this conversation, see where we can help.
Thank you, Steve, for joining me on Scouting for Growth. And thank you for this great conversation to help our technology friend to do this better.
Thank you, Sabine.